So the news out of Canada, I'm not doing the overview because everybody knows that when Zelensky was doing the rounds in North America, asking for billions and billions of more dollars to finance not just the war, and this is what I highlighted with the Going Underground interview that I did and with Roger Stone, not just finance the war, to finance all of the Ukrainian economy. Administrative salaries, government salaries. These people are living fat off the dough. They're sucking the fat from the bone, living in multi-million-dollar mansions. Government official salaries, subsidizing small businesses in Ukraine because their economy is taking a hit because of the conflict with Russia. That's what Canadian taxpayer dollars, US taxpayer, hundreds of billions of dollars. You're not just financing a war, which would be problematic enough. You're financing an economy where our economy is not exactly, on the golden path to heaven. I don't know, that's not the word, to paradise. Financing the Ukrainian economy, Ukrainian small businesses, Ukrainian government official salaries, so they can corruptly divvy up that money among themselves and go buy $1 million mansions across the world. That's what we're financing. So while Zelensky's doing the rounds in the West to beg for more because it's in all of our best interests for as long as it takes, he goes to the House of the Parliament in Canada, special invitation, where the government has also invited another guy who happens to have been a Nazi soldier for the SS back in Ukraine fighting the Soviets. They give him 2 standing ovations. You know the scandal. It becomes a scandal of international proportions. A, because it illustrates, for the dude running around calling Canadians Nazis for not wanting to, have their bodies medically experimented on. They invited a Nazi and gave a Nazi 2 standing ovations, but they don't politicize it. International embarrassment for Canada, but moreover, highlights the problem that many have been saying for quite a few years until it became memory hold, that there's a Nazi problem in Ukraine, and maybe people are starting to get a little wise to the fact that the hundreds of billions of dollars we're sending over unquestionably to this country, where, what was it, upwards of 30%? If it was either 30 or 70%, a significant portion goes unaccounted for. We might be financing actual Nazis in Ukraine while our government is demonizing us as being Nazis if we protest for our rights, don't want to be experimented on. That's the scandal. Justin Trudeau, being the pathological narcissist piece of human rubbish that he is, blames it all on Anthony Rota, the House Speaker. This guy had the sole responsibility of inviting this guy. He vetted him. None of us knew he was a Nazi. We were just celebrating a guy who fought our allies in World War II. Idiots. Okay, Anthony Rota, as you've all known, falls on the sword, takes full responsibility, apologizes, and resigns. Okay. He resigns. Everyone else gets to go scot-free. Justin Trudeau, don't blame me. I didn't do it. Chrystia Freeland, I have no understanding of Ukrainian history. I mean, my grandfather had Nazi ties, and I knew that they, fought the Soviets, and I knew that he was an SS soldier, but I didn't know him by name. Washes her hands of it. Zelensky, who gives him a standing ovation in our parliament, I'm just the president of Ukraine. I'm Jewish. I can't possibly, admit there's a Nazi problem. I can't possibly understand that the Ukrainians fought the Allies and joined the SS. I didn't know either. Nobody knew. Anthony Rota resigns. They appointed the new Speaker of the House. I think I knew him by name. They appoint a guy whose name is Greg Fergus. And by the way, credentials be damned. We're going to get into the credentials. Credentials be damned. You have to listen to this. I put out a tweet yesterday. I said the other day I called Justin Trudeau a narcissistic piece of shit, and that was wrong of me. I'm sorry. He's a narcissistic, racist piece of shit. And I'm going to tell you why. I apologize for cussing, but I think I might have come to grips with that being one of the character foibles that I am prepared to live with as far as I go now. And if that's as bad as it gets, so be it. He's not just a narcissistic piece of shit. He is a narcissistic, racist piece of shit. Why? Imagine looking at someone and you reduce them to their skin color. You reduce them to their religion. You reduce them to their sexual orientation, to their creed. When you do that, you are the ist that you accuse of. When you do not see a human for a human, and you say, hey, human, black, human, Jew, human, gay, you are reducing people to identity politics, and you are the racist, you are the anti-Semite, and you are the bigot. I make the joke all the time, you know who never lets you forget that you're Jewish? Jews and anti-Semites. And the reason for that is one is loving and one is not loving. You know, when a member of your family sees you eating a ham sandwich on Yom Kippur, and they say, "Duh, David, you shouldn't be doing that," or they see eating unkosher, or you're doing something that culturally, religiously, people know you shouldn't be doing. And you know who else never lets you forget it? Regardless of how many rules you break, the people who never want to see you as anything but the Jew. The people who never want to see you as anything but the black. So what does Trudeau? Justin Trudeau, for all of you who don't know, it gets elected by secret ballot by Parliament. Canada has now elected the first black House Speaker. Credentials be damned, because he's got problems, as we're going to get into in a second. When I say that Trudeau is a racist and narcissist, I present to you Exhibit 1. And I'm going to tell you what, it's going to make you puke. I don't want to oversell it.
And it will give us the opportunity to proceed.
This is after his speech. Yeah, proceed with mutual respect.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your trust. I hope that I will earn it over the coming years.
Spoiler alert, this guy was found guilty of a conflict of interest violation, ethics breach. We'll get there in a second. Never mind. Forget that. He's black, because Justin Trudeau wants you to know he's black.
I hope I will have the opportunity.
In case you didn't know.
To speak with each one of you to get to know you better. And in this way, we will really set an example for all.
Set an example. Yep, set an example. We now have a Speaker of the House, a man who was found guilty of ethics violations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I wish you
all the success. Let's hear what Justin Trudeau has to say. Look at it. Oh, they're giving him a standing ovation. We all know what those mean now. Look at Pablo Rodriguez on the bottom left there. Okay, here, they're going to get Justin Trudeau to speak.
L'honorable Premier Ministre.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Très honorable. Voilà, mon première erreur.
There, my first mistake, he says.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président,
we're going to go back.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the government and all members in this House, I wish to congratulate you
I want
for
to
your
vomit
election.
listening to this guy.
I also want to thank everyone who ran. Thank you for answering the call when it was time to keep our democracy strong and healthy.
Mr. Speaker, today you are the first black Canadian to become Speaker of this House.
Look at his disgusting face. I look at you, Greg Fergus. I don't see anything other than a black man. That's all I see when I look at you. Yeah, look at this. Oh, God. Can you imagine how demeaning and degrading that is? Like, imagine I got appointed Speaker of the House. I don't know if they've ever had a Jewish Speaker of the House. And they look at me and they set aside law degrees, set aside Rumble Awards, set aside whatever. Mr. Frei, you are the first Jew Speaker of the House. How do you think that? I mean, I know how that would make me feel, like an absolute object. And they go on. They're so proud of themselves for having done it. They're not proud of him. They're proud of themselves because of how tolerant, because of how not racist they are, that they actually elected a black man. And the first thing they say to him, you're a black man. Oh, and by the way, it's the Right Honourable. And don't make that mistake again. I smiled, but it ain't funny. You call me by my title, and it's the Right Honourable. I'll go back and watch that in a second.
This should be inspiring for all Canadians, especially younger generations who want to get involved in politics.
We'll stop there. No, it should be inspiring for all Canadians, especially when you find out that he was found guilty of having violated the Conflict of Interests Act. But let's just go back. Let's just go back for 1 second and look at the repulsive man that is Justin Trudeau. He couldn't let it slide, by the way. So just so you know, I don't know why they are called honorable. I mean, I think that it's just customary. They're called honorable, but I guess Justin Trudeau is one notch, the Prime Minister's one notch above other honorable members of Parliament. He's the Right Honourable. And so he introduces him as l'honorable Premier Ministre Trudeau, the Honourable Prime Minister Trudeau. And Justin Trudeau has to say, le très honorable, which in French means the very honourable, but I guess that's the French version of Right Honourable is très honorable. You're Right Honourable. He has to correct him. The narcissist cannot not get the respect that he demands from his title in public. And you're going to make sure that Fergus knows his first mistake. It's the right honorable, and don't you ever forget it. And then he sticks his disgusting lizard tongue out at him. Look at this. There. Okay.
L'honorable Premier Ministre.
The honorable Prime Minister. Excusez-moi, Monsieur Fergus. C'est le très honorable.
The right honorable Prime Minister.
Très honorable.
Oh, I missed it. Très honorable. Because he's very honorable. He's. Oh, come on. I can go on all day.
Right
Let me
honorable
just.
Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
I missed it.
Au nom
S'assurer qu'on va...
Forget it
In
here.
order
Voilà!
Mon première erreur. There, my
set
first
an example
mistake.
for all Canadians.
Why can I not get this thing? Here we go. Let's work on the pause. I want to pause it on the lizard tongue. Voilà mon première erreur. Merci de m'avoir subordonné, Monsieur le Premier ministre.
L'honorable Premier Ministre.
The right honorable Prime Minister.
très honorable.
There we go. There you go. Let's just go ahead and screen grab that and bring it to Twitter. Très honorable.
Voilà! Mon première erreur.
Oh, that wasn't your first mistake. That wasn't your first mistake. That's your first mistake as Speaker of the House. Oh, hold on one second. Let me just go ahead and just tweet that. No comment. Just going to go ahead and tweet that. Wonderful. This is. Oh, no. Where is it? I know I just screen grabbed it because I just did it. Where that? There it is. Okay, it's tweeted. Does that not make you want to vomit? This is the guy now, by the way, in order to get past the fact that they gave a standing ovation to a Nazi, that they pretend not to have known who he was, what he was, etc. They throw the old House Speaker under the bus. He falls on the sword. And what do? Well, now not only have they made up for the Nazi standing ovation, but they get to show how virtuous and righteous they are as having elected the first black Speaker of the House in Canada. He's not a human, everybody. They reduce him to identity. And yes, it's secret ballot. I don't know what the results were. All of Parliament votes by secret ballot, and he got in. But it's the first thing he says. Reduce someone not to their credentials, not to their experience, not to their history, not to their individuality, to their race. As so that you can congratulate yourself at having you've turned the Nazi debacle into racial harmony by singling out a man by race in front of Parliament. I mean, it's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. And by the way, I'd like to know, did what's his face? Did Fergus give a standing ovation to the Nazi? I mean, I know everyone in Parliament did. I just don't know where Fergus stands, so that when I go look at the wide-angle picture of everyone in Parliament giving a standing ovation to a Nazi, I don't know where Fergus is in that crowd. See, the only fortunate ones are the ones who were not in Parliament on that day, so they couldn't have been there to make the mistake that everyone else there made. Just go refresh and see if we're still monetized on YouTube. Oh, we are. Look at that. All right, but we're not done with Fergus yet. Because, look, turn it into a racial issue. It's the right honorable Fergus. Don't you forget it. And now let me reduce you to an object of race, religion, creed, whatever. But let's just ignore also your history, shall we? Nobody knows who Fergus is. MP Greg Fergus, this is from CBC, so you know when they're going to report something unfavorable about the hand that finances them, it's probably going to be begrudgingly true. MP Member of Parliament Greg Fergus becomes the latest Liberal caught violating ethics rules. This is from 10 years ago, right? No, I'm sorry, hold on, what? February 14, Valentine's Day, 2023. Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion calls for ethics training in wake of latest breach. Yeah, when you violate the rules, depending on who it is, it's either ethics training. It's my first day. I didn't know. Or it's off with their heads, get out of Parliament, depending on political orientation. No one's above the law, but some people are more below the law than others. And may I remind you that Justin Trudeau has been found in violation of the Conflict of Interest Act twice. He had 3 complaints. The last one he got out of, and I don't know how, but it was right before Mario Dion left for health reasons. The first one was the Aga Khan scandal, where Justin Trudeau was taking all expense paid trips to the island of the Aga Khan, some philanthropist who was petitioning the federal government for tens of millions of dollars, which he got. Didn't disclose it. Didn't think, like a $50,000, $60,000 jet ski, all-inclusive vacation to this guy's private island while he's asking the government for money, that you should disclose those things. Ethics violation number 1. Number 2 was when he fired Jody Wilson-Raybould, the first Aboriginal woman Minister of Justice and Attorney General. Remember, when he appointed her, he was so proud of the fact that he appointed a woman, and an Indigenous woman at that. Then he fired her like the underling that she is when she refused to do his bidding for him. Second ethics violation. The third ethics complaint was the We Charity, where it became known that his mother, his brother, his wife were getting speaking fees, gifts, or compensation, remuneration, other goodies from the We Charity for speaking fees, while the We Charity was being granted a sole-sourced, no-bid contract to administer $1 billion in student loans, for which they were getting paid like $20 million. And Mario Dion, the ethics commissioner, I could probably take this out of the screen for a second, somehow came to the conclusion that that wasn't a violation of ethics because they were not immediate family members or something ludicrous. Then Mario Dion goes on leave or resigns due to health reasons. And you know what? Amazing coincidence. The federal government has not appointed a commissioner to investigate alleged ethics violations. So Canada has now been without an ethics commissioner to enforce the Conflict of Interest Act for over 6 months now. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. But lo and behold, when there was an ethics commissioner there, Mario Dion, he found that Greg Fergus violated ethics rules. Let's just see how. The Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is recommending that all federal ministers and parliamentary secretaries report to his office. He's not there anymore, so nobody can do this. For training, after MP Fergus became the latest high-profile Liberal to violate the Conflict of Interests Act. Quote, offers to provide training and education sessions on a variety of topics have been offered to all federal parties and to regulatees. Yet we continue to see a succession of mistakes that are largely attributable to not corruption, not lack of ethics, an inability to recognize the need to seek consultation. Oh, I didn't know I needed to seek consultation. What did Fergus do? He made the remarks in his ruling against Fergus, Prime Minister Trudeau's parliamentary secretary. Fergus was found to have violated the act by writing a letter of support for a television channel's application to the CRTC for mandatory carriage. Not mandatory exclusion, mandatory carriage. Imagine the CRTC. Remember, everybody, it's independent, the CRTC. They don't take their guiding actions from the government that established their existence. They're totally independent, separate from government, except members of parliament, and there was a reason why he was wearing 2 hats, he had another function, are writing a letter to them to say, you better carry this channel on the, wherever it is, on television, radio, television. You better carry this channel. I'm not telling you what to do. You're totally independent, but I wrote you a nice letter letting you know what I think you should do. And why? Politics. We'll get there in a second. Under parliamentary rules, MPs, members of parliament, can write letters to support CRTC, the Canadian Radio Telecommunications Commission, whatever it is, to support an application, but parliamentary secretaries and cabinet ministers cannot. Why? Because they carry more weight and more influence, more power to govern. Ministers and parliamentary secretaries are subject to both Conflict of Interest Code for members of the House of Commons in their roles as parliamentarians, and the Conflict of Interest Act in their role as government officials. This is because they wield more influence than backbench MPs. Okay. In a statement posted online, yada, yada. Fergus thanked Dion for his report. Can you imagine this? It's like you get found to have violated the law and you thank the person. It's not that you are forced to resign because the Conflict of Interest Act doesn't actually have any punitive sanctions by and large. There's some like small fines and whatever, but there's no imprisonment. There's no forced resignation. It's supposed to be a political tool that results in, political backlash. Thank you for finding that I broke the Conflict of Interest Act. I vow to do better. And let's not politicize the fact that we all gave a standing ovation to a Nazi. I will redouble my efforts to be more diligent in the future to ensure my obligations under the Act are fully met. You know what? For normal people, There's an expression in French, nul n'est censé ignorer la loi. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. I'm sorry, it's my first day. I'll do better. My goodness. And then Dion announces his retirement. I'll just read this before we end on this. Liberals and ethics violations. Dion said over the last 5 years that despite offers to provide ethics training, his office has continued to see government officials, quote, unaware of their obligations and mistakenly making assumptions. Oh yeah, bullshit. You assume that they're of good faith? At what point do you stop assuming that they're of good faith and that they're just corrupt hacks? And even when they get caught, nothing happens to them. So what's the incentive to even not do it and risk getting caught when nothing happens to you? Even when you do it and get caught and get found guilty, nothing happens to you. It's amazing. After years of serving in senior positions, Dion said Fergus should have been aware of the rules or should have sought advice. I'm quite concerned that someone of his breadth of experience, Mr. Fergus, would fail to recognize the possibility of a contravention. Well, he's now Speaker of the House. He's had a troubled relationship with the Conflict of Interest Act since coming to office. He was found guilty. Yeah, we did that already. Okay. During the SNC-Lavalin scandal, yada, yada. Okay, fine. Oh, hold on, actually, I want to see this here. During the SNC-Lavalin scandal, Dion's office found that Trudeau broke the act by pressuring then-Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould, to enter into a deferred prosecution agreement. In 2018, Trudeau accepted 2 pairs of leather-covered sunglasses made by fellow Earthlings Eyewear, based in rural Prince Edward Island, which retailed for about $300 and $500 each. He was fined $100 for failing to report the gift. While Trudeau was cleared of any conflict of interest during the We Charity probe, Dion concluded former Finance Minister Bill Morneau did breach the act for failing to recuse himself from cabinet deliberations about the summer student program grants. Okay. 2021, Liberal MP Yasmin Ratanzi was found to have violated the act for employing her foster sister in her constituency office for years. More recently, International Trade Minister Mary Ng was forced to apologize after Dion ruled she had placed herself in a conflict of interest by awarding communications contracts to public relations agency Pomp and Circumstance. Okay. After issuing the report, Dion announced, I have been honored to... Oh yeah, then he announced he's retiring. Okay. So that's it. That's it. The man whose judgment is so poor he doesn't know the rules after years in government, conflict of interest, found guilty. He's now Speaker of the House. But set aside experience, lack of experience, or confirmed ethics violations. Trudeau wants to make everybody understand he's black. All right, I feel better.